So I'm Jeevan. I head data strategy at Market Invoice. Market Invoice, has anyone heard of Market Invoice? No, you have, okay. Is anyone in fintech? Okay, so fintech people have heard. So we are a leading online peer-to-peer financing platform. So on our platform, what businesses can do is they can sell their outstanding invoices, so they can borrow against their outstanding invoices, and these invoices are funded by a pool of private pool of investors. So the businesses use us because they unlock funds which are otherwise locked up for typically, like say, 30 to 120 days. So what we're doing really is like short-term collateralized loans to companies. The investors use us because they make pretty good returns, as you can see, 11.5% more than that last year. And we've been doing well so far. We've done close to 400 million pounds worth of invoices. And just the last year alone, we've done more than 200, I think 210-ish, as you can see in the graph. So we've been growing pretty well. And please note my side comment, past returns are not necessarily indicative of future returns. All right. Anyway, so the data that we have is kind of varied and diverse, which makes it interesting. So we fit in being like an internet product, a marketplace, and a financial services company. So on top of things like the event data and the transaction data, we have a ton of information about the companies themselves because we make credit decisions. We use that for risk management. And because we're a services company, we also have a CRM, a customer relationship management software. So a lot of data is kind of generated there as well. And like any other company, we have the general data, but we also have this problem of scattered CSVs and Excel sheets. So we're trying to solve that as well. Our data is not really big. We don't have a big data problem. It's quite small, but the problem that we want to solve, like what we want to do as a data team is really make sure that everyone in the company makes most use of the data that they have. So data is in different places. How do we give users easiest, how do you make it extremely easy for users to access the data and also to make connections within this diverse set of data? So that's like data democracy. Right? So our data strategy, we kind of define our data strategy as a solution to one problem, like two problems. Like how do we get everyone in the company to have like role-based access to business-specific data and help them easily self-serve data and derive and share insights. And the challenges that come with this is that our data is spread across multiple places, like many of you guys. We have to support non-technical users, so no SQL, but we also have to create this abstraction of the data because the end users should not really know about the schemas and all of that. So we want to create and expose only business relevant information and all language specific to the business area. So that's a few challenges. And the biggest challenges was we're a lean company. We're about 60 people at this point. Most of it is sales, but as our tech team is quite small, and the data team is just Jacob and myself. So as a lean team, we wanted to get this done as soon as possible. And that was one of our considerations as well while we're choosing this. We're trying to solve these two problems. So our first attempt at solving the problem was, I think, like what many of you guys would have done is create like an in-house homegrown reporting tool. So that's what we did. So we built, this is a web service that we built. As you can see, we have like teams, and for each team, we have reports showing. So this, you can clearly see the downsides of this, right? It's not scalable, it breaks, so it's high maintenance. It's not really self-serve. There are a few reports that are there that the teams can use, but they can't do anything more than that. Although there was one thing that was helping us to do was to connect two data sources. So you can see the total acquired customers was coming from the CRM, and the transactional data, like how much loans that they've gone on to take from the platform is coming from the transaction DB, and it's all in one place. And the way we were trying to do these connections was, again, a bit messy. What we were doing is, between the CRM and the transaction data, we had this sync process that copied a subset of the data back and forth, that moved it back and forth. And again, this clear problems with this, right? We built this thing ourselves, so it broke often. We had to maintain it. Any internal thing that you build, you have to kind of put extra resources to keep it up. So not such a great solution. And also, although it solved the problem some way, it introduced more problems. and adding new data sets, right? So when we introduce something else, we have to repeat this process, so it's not really scalable, and definitely something that we have to work around. So it seems like kind of obvious that because we want to make connections, we had to pull all our data together. Right? So that's basically what we did. This is our data pipeline now, and that was before. So what we did was we basically centralized all our data into Redshift and exposed that using Looker. If you just see a few things that I want to point out here, right? If you just focus on this slide, is because keep in mind that we wanted to get this done as soon as possible. So most of the things that you see here is like plug and play. For example, the MySQL, the SQL server and MySQL database, we just used Attunity Cloud Beam to just take that and dump it into Redshift. And you'll see there's no transformation, there's no ETL, there's only EL, like extract and load. And this really helped us save time, so we don't have to think about how the data will be used later on. We just had to dump it into Redshift, and that's exactly what we did. And this really didn't take us much time. And another thing that comes with just extracting and loading is that it's schema change friendly. We are kind of like 3 years old maybe, so our underlying database keeps changing quite a bit. So with this process, what we've seen is if someone adds, the schema changes, if someone adds a new column, it just shows up to be used in Looker. And if someone does change a particular column that we actually use in LookML, all we have to do is go and change that in LookML. So this process of correction is almost instant. And as you can see, all our transformation is done on Looker using persistent derived tables. I think some of you might be using that already. Another thing I want to point out is how we kind of got around or hacked this problem of scattered spreadsheets, right? Everyone has scattered spreadsheets. So what we ask from our users right now is to copy any data from their CSVs and just use Google Sheets. It's a Google Sheets icon. We use Node.js a lot because it's great for us asynchronous stuff. So we just pull the data from Google Sheets and automatically dump it into Redshift, and we can see it on Looker. So we make all these connections, and this really also helps us in building a data culture because everyone now in the company knows that there's an extremely easy way to get any kind of data into Looker, and they actively look to do that. So that's great, and that helps us, like I said, building a data culture. And we have web services, it could be HubSpot. We're still working with, we have Google Analytics as well. We're trying to put that in. And this is our first iteration of the data pipeline, right? We've been trying to improve that. And we know that there are better ways to do it, but this is what helped us to just get started as soon as possible. Another thing that the design of Looker really helps us to do is, so everyone in the company has a login to Looker. So all the 60 people in the company have Looker user logins, and we create this inverted pyramid, right, where most users are data consumers and they only look at dashboards, and we restrict their view to just the spaces. And there are analysts within each team, and these analysts are analysts that know how to use the explore section, and they know how to they know what dimensions and measures are. They know how to build dashboards and share all of that. So we have analysts. They're not technical people, but they're more analytical people within the company. So they don't have to know SQL anyway. So they focus on Explore. And for example, Jacob and myself, we are the data core team. So we build the Looker ML models. And it's great that our CTO just started chipping into the Looker ML model. So we don't want to keep it closed like this. We want to open it, but we're taking it step by step. And this really helps us. Anything that we do, we just teach it to 10 more people, and the 10 more people kind of propagate it through the rest of the team, which is, I think, a good way to make things more efficient. So going back to the problem we started, I think we solved the problem that we started with. We gave access to everyone. Everyone can self-serve. Either go through their analyst or they can do it themselves. We also solved this thing about having data in different places by centralizing it. Creating the underlying abstraction through LookML is extremely easy, and it's easier than SQL. And I think one of the best things that happened to us, it made our life extremely easy. I was extremely happy when I found Looker because I didn't have to do a lot of work. No, I'm not kidding. So think about this, right? We started talking to Rafael in the middle of Feb, or like second week of Feb, and we had we did all of this. We evaluated the trial, we moved to production, we centralized the data, and we had a couple of models that people could start using in a matter of 6 weeks. But it was this Feb 7th, we started Looker trial. March 23rd, we kind of launched to the company. So that's been really good for us. We went to 0 to 1 in like just 6 weeks. Some of the advantages that we had, we kind of went beyond solving the problem. We eliminated bottleneck, like what Nicola said. There's no data team bottleneck anymore. Everything first flows to the data analyst, and the data analyst cannot do it, then it comes to us. So it's given us a lot of time to tackle more advanced problems and even like focus on some innovative stuff. Another place where it's made the data team's life easy is this process of it streamlined the data science process. So as many of you might know, it takes a lot of time to prepare data before you feed it into a model. And with Looker, we have the model ready for us, and all we do is we just pull it out from Looker API, which is extremely simple. We feed it into this server where we have Node.js. We use Node.js, like I said, for asynchronous stuff. For example, we have a model which, once it predicts the volume that a seller would go on to take for the next month, we have an external risk model which computes how much fee that we charge those models. So we use an external API to get the fee and feed it back. And we can also spawn processes like Python and R processes to maybe reuse some models that reuse some kind of some models that your data team has worked in previously. You just standardize the input and output, and you feed it back into S3. You just dump it back into S3 to Redshift, and it shows up on Looker. So we really simplified the process of extracting the data. That's the data preparation process, and also this process where we evaluate the model. So when you pump it back into Looker, you can evaluate your model. That becomes easy. And sharing becomes easy as well. So streamlined data science process, I think it can be a real game changer for like a fintech, data-driven company like us. So what's next for us? I think Looker has some amazing capabilities, and we're using all the new things that were mentioned in the beginning. We're using symmetric aggregates, which is my favorite feature in Looker. I would pay Looker just to get that symmetric aggregate. And I think the latest version has symmetric aggregates on different keys. You might want to look at that, and that's, I think, it's amazing. So the kind of thing that so we're using embed. I'll talk to you about. What I spoke about before was really the fairly easy bit, but now we're trying to tackle user adoption. I do a lot of user training. Jacob and myself spend roughly 20 to 30% of our time teaching people not how to use Looker, but how they can use Looker for their business case. Not just how to use Explore, not the technical bits, but how it can really change their business. And that's we do regular office hours, and we also had a training from Looker, which was great. And we're also to increase adoption. Another thing we're doing is we're taking Looker and putting it into the workflow of the user, and we do that by embedding Looker in. For example, we've embedded Looker in our CRM, like I've shown here, and we use Sugar CRM. If someone used Sugar CRM, you know how basic it is. We kind of really expand the capabilities of what Sugar CRM itself can do by simply embedding this. For example, here there are two things in play. Right? One. We can show all the transactional data of an account, so a salesperson can just click on the Looker tab and see seasonality and all of that, just to help him make, say, does he want to make the next phone call or not? And also that thing I said about if you see, these are volume predictions and how much revenue predictions and so on. So that's this process of extracting data from Looker, running the model, pumping it back into Looker, and exposing it. So if I'm a salesperson, I know I see that the team is making a prediction of 230K, but my account has only done 30K. I might want to investigate that. I might want to make the next phone call. So that helps a lot. We're also really treating data as a product. So what we're doing is every new thing that we do, with Looker. We're calling it a feature. Every new dimension measure that we add, we are calling it a story or feature depending on the complexity. And anything wrong that happens, any data that's wrong, we're calling it a bug. And things like that. We're just really using like the data development process the product development process on data, so that both Jacob and myself are measured against this. So we are measured against how many bugs there is, how many features we introduce, and all of that. So I think it's quite important to treat data as a product, and this is really an internal product that we're using. We just spoke with Lambert and Ryan yesterday to extend Looker's capabilities to our investor platform. So what we're really trying to do there is, if you might have personal trading accounts, right, where you trade stocks and bonds. If you go in, you place orders, and apart from placing orders, you have a bunch of graphs that show you your performance and all of that. And that's exactly what an investor platform is. Apart from making the bids and buying these invoices, the rest of the platform is simply a bunch of dashboards that we think we can just swap out with Looker, because it's extremely powerful. The functionalities are really good, and it saves a ton of time for our tech team to maintain whatever's in the investor platform. What we are continuously trying to do is add more data sets, and because it's, like I said, it's like centralized, all we have to do is just figure out a way to dump it into Redshift, and it shows up in Looker. We are always trying to enhance the data pipeline. I'm not saying that the data pipeline I showed you is the best thing to do, but we're always looking to learn. And we're thinking about real-time analytics at the same point. So I think this data stack that we finalized on in the past couple of months has solved the problem. And it's not only solved the problem, it's gone beyond and set us up as a company to use data beyond ways that we thought that we could use. And that, I think, is extremely exciting from like a data perspective. And that's about it. And also, my CTO asked me to do this. We're hiring, so, and so it's just to add, marketinvoice.com/careers.